Hello, thank you for stopping by. I'm so glad you're here, and welcome to Cooking with Julia, where it is my goal to follow Julia Child's recipes as closely as possible, but make a few practical adaptations to make them more budget friendly using modern ingredients. Today, we are going to be making Julia Child's veal dinner for four in half an hour. This is season 3, episode 7 of the French Chef television show and the 62nd episode in the French Chef cookbook. Before we get started, I am going to need some coffee to get through this. While I get started on that, let's listen to what Julia has to say.
We're doing a 3-course dinner while you watch today on the French Chef.
So the menu in the book looks like more than 3 courses. We have vichyssoise à la russe. We have sauté de veau au porc au champignon. And I am using au porc because I could not find a veal tenderloin for love nor money anywhere on the north side of Chicago. We'll have a green salad, poires au gratin. It looks like we are going to be starting out with the poires au gratin, so take it away, Julia.
And you have to start with whatever takes the longest to cook. And in this instance, it is our dessert, fresh pears baked with macaroons.
I'm using red Anjou pears. They were relatively affordable and they looked nice.
I'm just now peeling the pears because I didn't want to waste a minute.
I'm going to cheat a little bit and use a peeler first. I'm not doing it all by hand. Oh, I got to start a timer. I'm going to start a timer to see how long this takes. She says 30 minutes. I doubt I'm going to get it done in 30 minutes. Okay, I stopped the timer. I'm going to make a cup of coffee real quick and then get back to it. This will really help and guide my soul through this cooking endeavor.
I've cut out the core and then rapidly cut off the skin just as fast as I can. And they're rather slippery. And you cut the pear right through the middle. You see, you stand it up and cut it through in quarters.
It might have been a little bit easier to quarter these when they weren't peeled already, but just using that peeler and peeling the whole pear at once seems like a lot faster way to go than trying to quarter them and then peel them by hand. Okay, 4 red Anjou pears peeled and cored, a total of 5 minutes and 24 seconds.
And you can also use canned pears for this.
I should have used canned pears. That would have really saved some time.
We're going to have the macaroons, which give them flavor. Makes an awfully nice dessert.
The recipe calls for macaroons, and I did not use them because they are expensive, and it seems like kind of a waste. I am substituting these Italian amaretti cookies. I can find them in most grocery stores around here. I think they're pretty common across the U.S. They are not exactly like a macaroon. They have a few additional ingredients beyond what macaroons do, and they are naturally already sort of dry and crispy. But I think they're a really good substitute. They're a lot cheaper, and you don't have to dry them out in the oven like Julia does in this episode.
You want to cut them into 3/8-inch slices.
I'm not getting fancy with this. I'm just cutting them in slices.
I think I have enough pears there, because we don't want people to get too fat.
Don't want people to get too fat. Watch where we're about to go.
I have some melted butter here.
Pot full of melted butter. You don't want too many pears because you don't want people to get too fat. Here's a pot of melted butter. I have looked up all of the butter and all of the recipes grouping for this, and I need fully a stick and a half of butter. Fully a stick and a half of butter. So that is what I'm doing. I'm taking a stick and a half of butter and melting it.
And these pears are going to go in a fireproof shallow dish.
Okay, fireproof shallow dish. I'm using this little casserole thing.
If you want to take the time, you can arrange them in a more fancy way.
I am not arranging them.
And the coating begins with apricot jam, that great favorite of French cooking.
We're making a coating from apricot jam.
And this apricot jam always has some little bits of peel in it. You always have to put it through a strainer.
Okay, about 1/3 of a cup of apricot jam through the sieve.
Then we're going to put in some vermouth.
Glug, glug, glug. That about 1/3 of a cup.
Your apricot and vermouth syrup is poured over the pears. You just can't imagine what a lovely combination this makes.
Actually, this does sound really good.
And these are just ordinary macaroons. I got them at an Italian bakery. And I dried them out for about an hour in the oven.
Using amaretti cookies, they're already dried out and crumbly, pretty close to macaroons. I'm going to crush mine in a Ziploc bag.
And then you just take the macaroons and sprinkle them over the dessert.
Okay, very attractive little dessert. Very simple, but Smells delicious. 30-minute recipe. I have spent 13 minutes and 41 seconds on the first dish. So let's see how it progresses from
This
here.
is risotto that we're going to do, and risotto means braised rice.
Okay, risotto. I got chicken stock, vermouth, and arborio risotto rice.
And braised rice means that the rice has been sauteed and then cooked in a liquid.
All right, we've got 1 1/4 cup of rice going in here, 2 tablespoons of butter going into this rice, and I'm going to heat it for a couple minutes, stirring. Okay, oopsie doopsie. I was so focused on messing with the camera settings that I let the risotto toast heavily. I would say it's a little bit short of burnt. I'm still going to use it.
You are ready to add your liquids, and I'm going to put in a little vermouth. And then after you put your liquid in, you want to start stirring with a spoon. And then we're going to use chicken stock. And you just put in enough liquid so that the rice is just barely covered. And now our dessert is in the oven and our rice is cooking, so we now can get to our meat.
Time to get to the meat. Excellent.
And we're going to use a tenderloin of veal.
I need to slice up my pork tenderloin here. It didn't come sliced.
It's very hot, and you want to make sure that your meat is dry. And then you just add the meat to the pan. And then that just gets stirred around until it browns.
So the pork loin has started sauteing. I'm going to add a little bit more liquid to the risotto. Okay, the dessert just went off. Let's pull that out of the oven.
Looks delicious.
Okay, hands washed, surfaces clean, new towel. Pork tenderloin's almost done.
Now, I don't have to hover over that veal all the time. I can go on and do something else as long as I'm near it.
That's what I'm doing, but what do I do next?
So you have to rely on the friendly can in the freezer for a few things.
Okay, canned mushroom, draining it. There's no reason you can't use fresh mushrooms price-wise, and they have them already cut up, but she used canned mushrooms, so that's what I did. You get this juice out of it at least.
It's just a matter of turning it fairly continually until it gets a nice brown. As you see, with a meal like this, if you have planned it out, you don't really have to rush all the time because you know exactly what you're doing.
All right, come on. I'm caught up to you, Julia.
We're always having people say, oh, that complicated French method.
Come on, I'm ready to move on.
And you can see this is not so complicated. And at this point, when the meat is fairly brown, I can put the mushrooms in. And now we would like either some shallots or some scallions.
I'm using cebollitas, which are just green onions that have matured a little bit, and they're about the same price, actually the exact same price as green onions at my local grocery store, and they just got a little bit more onion substance to them.
Cut it in half lengthwise.
All right, well, I just cut the bulbs off, and I'm just dicing them up.
When you say that you need minced shallots or onions, it really means minced. It doesn't mean cut in small slices.
Then I'm going to cut the white part of the stalk like she does.
And then cut the lengths in half. Then gather them together and just cut right down.
All right, well, that's a better way of doing it. I should have listened to her from the start. Let's check that risotto. Okay, this risotto has absorbed a lot of the liquid, but not quite all of it. Let's see where it is tenderness-wise. All right, the risotto has a journey yet to go tenderness-wise. It hasn't absorbed all of its liquid, but I'm just adding more.
And then we will probably want some parsley.
I definitely do not want parsley. I mean, it's fine, but I can live without it.
Because one always needs something for decoration.
I'm going to use the green part of the onions as decoration. Okay, decorative elements done. What's these for?
You don't ever want to overcook veal or pork because it loses so much of its lovely flavor.
Okay, Sheeta chops these onions and then doesn't put them in the pan. I'm going to put them in the pan. In they go. Just saute a little bit.
I'm going to use half of our mushroom liquid. And then I'll use a little more vermouth. I'm using canned leeking potato soup or vichyssoise.
Canned leeking potato soup is not a thing that I could find anywhere. I'm using Campbell's cream of potato soup. Don't judge me. Not as bad as you would expect, and I'm going to dilute it twice as much as it calls for. So instead of just 1 can, Is that what it calls for? Yeah, instead of just one can of liquid in there, I'm putting 2 cans. And I'm using chicken broth. I'm just going to whisk this together. And then I'm adding in a packet of onion soup mix. It's actually pretty tasty. I don't mind it. Serving bowl for this or checking the risotto?
And this is a soup that I made up myself. It's not a very clever soup, but it's a very nice one.
Okay.
And then all one needs to do is just ladle it into your soup bowls. And then just at the last minute, you would add the à la russe part. And in this case, the à la russe is a julienne of beets.
Okay, I am going to put this in the refrigerator to chill, and I will put the beets and the sour cream on it as I serve it. I do have to chop up the beets because I have whole beets. I already had some in the refrigerator. These are just pickled beets. I'm going to dice them up fairly roughly. I'm not going to try to julienne them because ain't nobody got time for that. Nobody got time for that. All right, where do we go from here? This veal's got to be, or this pork tenderloin's got to be done.
The juices for our veal have reduced quite nicely. They can reduce a little bit longer. And so I'm going to set that aside a bit. And then I'm going to check my rice again.
This pork tenderloin is done. I'm setting it aside, apparently, meaning like that. So let's check this risotto. It has fully absorbed liquid. Okay, let's give this a taste. Hot, cooked. Almost cooked. Just a little bit more water.
And then we're going to get to the sauce for our meat.
All right, we're moving on to the sauce for the meat. Excellent. We're almost done here, and I am at 35:31.
It's an egg yolk sauce. I've got 2 egg yolks.
Oh no, I do not have 2 egg yolks. I have 1 egg yolk. Whoopsie-doozles. I forgot to get more eggs. We'll have to make it do. I just turned off the risotto and covered it to let that last little bit of liquid soak into it. Egg yolk, whisk.
Beat it up. And then put in a little bit of your reserved mushroom juice. And then we're just going to heat this over moderate heat as though it were a hollandaise so that the egg yolks thicken.
That is really annoying. All right, it's mostly foamy, but I think it's thickened as much as it's going to. I don't know exactly what the egg yolk to mushroom juice ratio was that I did. I just sort of eyeballed it.
See, that just barely holds in the wires of the whip.
Then she's beating butter into it very, very gradually. Oh, that's hot.
But remember, when you're beating the butter in, do it very, very slowly.
Probably enough butter, and I probably did that way too quick.
Now I forgot to put the shallots or chopped scallions in with my veal.
Yeah, she forgot. I remembered. I remembered. Julia forgot. I was reading recipe though. Okay, she's plating now. I am now at 37 minutes, and everything's done, ready to be plated. So she's plating on the episode. I'm going to clean up first, and then come back and plate everything. So I will be right back. Kitchen tidied a little bit. I am going to finish the sauce, and plate everything. I'm cheating because there was not. I only had 1 egg yolk for that sauce. I'm going to cheat and put like a tablespoon of mayonnaise in there to thicken it up a little bit. Is that weird? I don't know, but it's what I'm going to do. Okay, timer. Where's my time? Ah! Gross.
See, there are these nice juices in the pan, and those you gradually beat into your sauce.
Okay, I'm going to take some of this juice from the meat and whisk that in there.
And then put some parsley in, and that goes over your meat.
Okay, lovely little sauce. Serving container. Here's my serving platter. Meat in the middle here. The risotto on the sides. Pour the sauce on top of the meat. Take this to the table. Gorgeous. Take this pear dessert to the table. Stunning. Plate some soup. Fabulous. Then just a gorgeous little green salad. Très bien. All right, just shy of 45 minutes for this one, which is a huge improvement over last episode I did with the 30-minute chicken dinner. And the kitchen is not ideal, but it is a much better state than it was last time. And maybe the coffee helped. Did I drink coffee last time? I don't know, but coffee helps. Um, let's move over to the taste. Oh, drinks. She calls for what type of wine does she have? She says you can serve this with a chilled rosé wine. I don't keep wine in the house unless I'm buying it for something specific. So what I wanted to do was try to use up some of the alcohols that I bought for Julia Child recipes. I have this brandy left over from Pâté en Croûte and have vermouth from today's episode. So I wanted to figure out a way to use them. And after a little bit of searching, I figured out I can do a brandy Manhattan. This is dry vermouth, so it'll be a dry brandy Manhattan. And I have some of the unfashionable toxic red maraschino cherries rather than the fashionable better ones. So that's what I'm going to be using. The recipe is going to be recipe is going to be 2 parts brandy. 1, 2. Ooh, that's a lot of brandy. Okay. To 1/4 part vermouth and half a part of cherry syrup. I didn't quite have half a part. I only have a 1/4 part. Oh well. I don't have mixing glasses. Maybe I should get it. So I'm just stirring it up in this one and then straining it into this one. Oh, Lord. Making a mess. Garnish with maraschino cherries. Pretty tasty. Now I'm ready to move to dinner. Here we are ready to eat. This looks like a wonderful meal. 45 minutes worth of work. Not terrible for how fancy this looks. Got the faked potato soup. If you can come up with any better idea for leek potato soup than what I did, Campbell's cream of potato soup with French onion soup mix, 2 cans of chicken broth strained, and then sour cream added in the middle, diced beets, and green onions. That's what I got. Honestly, it doesn't taste terrible. My main complaint is that it is a little bit too salty, and it has that sort of French onion taste, like the cooked caramelized onion sort of thing. There is a leek soup packet mix of Knorr that might work better. I think it's not quite as salty. It's a milder onion flavor. That mixed with the Campbell's cream of potato soup actually would probably make pretty good leek and potato soup. I'm eating, so Pearl decided it's time for her to eat back there as well. Yeah, the sour cream and the diced beets and the fresh green onions do a world of help for this. It makes it taste really interesting and fresh. So this is definitely something I'm going to do in the future. I'm just going to play around with the leek and potato soup element of it, and I think I can come with something a little bit better. So I'm coming back to finish that. But I want to get through everything. Let's try the main course. Very tasty. Texture is perfect. There is a slight smokiness from where I may have overcooked it, but not terrible. Don't overcook your risotto and you won't have that problem. The vermouth and butter give it a nice saturated umami sort of taste to it. Not a strong flavor. It just sort of a tasty flavor. I don't know how to say it. Savory. I just added a little bit of salt and pepper combined with the vermouth and butter and the risotto. This actually works as a really good palate cleanser. Let's move on to the pork tenderloin. I am really worried it's going to be dry. I have made a lot of dry pork tenderloins in my life. All right, not dry, very tender. This pork tenderloin is amazeballs. It's a nice full sort of flavor range. You've got the mushrooms sitting at the bottom, and then the cooked pork on top of that, and then cooked onions right above that, and just sort of brightening upwards into the fresh diced green onion part. And there's a rich buttery creaminess infusing everything on top of that. Excellent. Highly recommend, would make again. Okay, time to move on to the salad course. This wasn't part of Julia's recipe. It was listed in the book. So you can do whatever you like. I'm just doing spinach tossed with a lemon garlic vinaigrette and a little bit of pecorino romano. It is, of course, lovely. You can make whatever salad you want. It's just a nice way to brighten up your palate and clear away the rich umami-ness of the main course. So now we get to try this dessert, which I'm very excited for. Okay, there's a little bit of a sort of a liquid hanging out in the bottom. I'm just going to pour that over top. Maybe I could have cooked it longer to thicken that up. I followed the recipe. All right, we've got pears and amaretto cookies, vermouth, and apricot preserves. Wowzers. All right, man, this is delicious. Very little effort. It tastes very fancy. Wow. This whole dinner is crazy good. I am so proud of myself. If I do say so myself, I didn't change Julia's recipe too much. I made a few substitutions. The potato soup is the only slightly off note. I don't want to call it a bad note, just slightly off. And that's my fault. I didn't have a leek and potato soup substitute. And I need to figure out a better one. Said that before. This main course, crazy good. This way of cooking a pork tenderloin is my favorite so far. The risotto came out great. The dessert is phenomenal. And yeah, love it. I'm going to dig in and finish this off. My hope is that you will be inspired to try this also. It may not be the modern definition of an easy 30-minute meal, but you know what? It wasn't terribly difficult. And I think I said this with the last 30-minute meal I tried. It would be a really great fancy dinner party meal that didn't take a lot of work, and a really great meal for someone who isn't an expert cook to make, and they can watch along with Julia, and she shows you what to do. It holds up. Julia's food holds up. I know it did. Thank you so much for watching. If you have liked this video, please give it a like. If you would like to see more, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the future.
So you see, with only half an hour to work in and 3 courses to prepare, still turn out a first-class dinner that you can linger over and enjoy.